Hello, good evening all. Welcome to another video with Pratham Test Prep. This is your host Sushila Chaudhary. So in today's video, we'll be talking about the violence that's been going on in Manipur. So the violence in Manipur is an ethnic clash that erupted on May 3rd, 2023 between the Meitei people, who are the majority in the Imphal Valley, and the tribal community from the surrounding hills, including the Kuki and Zo peoples. So the violent protests and clashes that erupted, they have come after the Manipal High Court's judgment, which directed the state government to grant scheduled tribe status to Meitei community based on 10-year-old recommendation. And as of June 21, 2023, more than 100 people have been killed in the violence, and more than 300 others have left wounded, and thousands have left their place. So the dispute has to do with the long-standing demand by the Meitei people for a scheduled tribe status under the Indian Constitution, which would give them privileges comparable to the tribal communities. So the tribal communities in the area oppose this demand as they believe that it would dilute their own rights and benefits. The violence has been particularly intense in Churachandpur district, where the Kuki and Zo peoples are concentrated. In some cases, entire villages have been burned down and thousands of people have been displaced from their house. The Indian government has deployed additional security forces to Manipur in an effort to contain the violence. However, the clashes have continued and there is no signs of resolution as of now. So to understand this better, let's understand the geography, the demography of Manipur as a state. Alright, so Manipur is a northeastern state of India. It is located in the eastern Himalayas, bordering Nagaland to the north, Mizoram to the south, Myanmar to the east, and Assam to the west. The state has a total area of 22,327 square kilometers, and it is divided into two major physiographic regions, the Manipur River Valley and the surrounding hills. The valley is the most populous region of Manipur, and it is home to the Meitei people, who are the majority ethnic group in the state. The valley is also home to a number of other ethnic groups, including Nagas, Kukis, and Petes. The hills are comparatively less populous than the valley. They're home to a number of different tribal groups, each with its own language and culture. Now let's just see what has been the history of this conflict, as the violence in Manipur has highlighted a deep-seated ethnic tensions in the state, and it has also raised questions about the effectiveness of India's affirmative action policies, which are designed to promote social and economic equality. So Manipur, like we can see in the video itself, Manipur has a long history of conflict dating back to actually the pre-colonial era. The state is home to a number of different ethnic groups, and each of it have their own culture and own values, and the diversity there has often led to tensions and conflict, particularly over the issues of land, resources, and political representation. Now let's just focus on the timeline. So in 1950s, so Manipur has been in the cross currents of India's oldest insurgent movement, that was the Naga National Movement in the 1950s. Now later on, as a response to this, the government enacted and extended the Armed Forces Special Powers Act 1958 to the state, and in 1974 there was a formation of United National Liberation Front. So that is again a Nagaland party was formed and demanding secession from India. Subsequently, numerous Meitei insurgent groups were formed, like PRAPAC, PLA came into being, and the Meitei insurgent groups received their arms and trainings from China. These groups operated with a dual purpose: independence from India and warding off the Naga insurgent groups, which had already formed in 1950s. So then in 1980s, Manipur was declared as a disturbed area, but with time, a tripartite suspension of operation agreement between the center, state and Kuki and Zomi groups was signed in 2008. However, the Valley insurgent groups, so basically the UNLF and the Meitei insurgent groups, have never entered into an such agreement with the center. The insurgent groups are woven into the daily life in Manipur. They conduct strikes, they impose moral codes such as ban on Hindi movies, music, etc. The group also levy taxes on the public. The groups are most visible today in the political life of the state. Candidates cutting across party lines stand for elections with insurgent backing, and the groups dictate to the voters who would win. Now let's come back to what exactly is happening right now. We have understood a little bit of background regarding what's been happening. So let's come to what is the legal context right now. So the legal context of the violence in Manipur is quite complex here. The Indian Constitution under Article 19 guarantees the right of freedom of speech and assembly, but it also prohibits the use of violence to achieve political goals. The government has the power to impose curfews and other restrictions on movement in order to maintain law and order. Now, Section 144 of CRPC, that is Code of Criminal Procedure, is one such restriction that a government can impose. So 144 of CRPC is a provision that allows the authorities to impose restrictions on public gathering in order to maintain law and order. It was invoked in Manipur in May 2023 following a series of violent clashes between Meitei and the other tribal communities who've been opposing the grant of scheduled tribe status to the Meitei community. The order prohibited the assembly of 5 or more people in public places and carrying of sticks, stones, firearms and other weapons. The imposition of Section 144 was controversial, and some people arguing that it was an infringement of right of freedom of assembly. However, the authorities argued that it was necessary to prevent further violence. The order anyhow was lifted on in June 2023, but the situation in Manipur still remains tense. So let's look into what exactly is Section 144. Let's do a little dive. Apologies. So there are some main characteristics of this particular restriction. First of all is prohibition of assembly of 5 or more people in public places, prohibition of carrying sticks, stones, firearms and other weapons, prohibition of holding public meetings, processions, prohibition of the publication of inflammatory speeches and writings, and power to arrest and detain person without a warrant. So the authorities can impose Section 144 if they believe that there is a threat to public safety or order. The order can be imposed by a district magistrate or a superintendent of police. It is valid for a maximum period of 2 months, but it can be extended for a further 2 months. Section 144, like in this context we can see, is a preventive measure that is designed to prevent violence and disorder. It is not a punishment for any crime that has already been committed. So if you are arrested under Section 144, you have the right to challenge the order in court. Now let's see, now owing to this violence, in the case of Manipur, the state government has invoked the RBI's right relief measures in order to provide assistance to borrowers who have been affected by the recent violence. The RBI has a set of guidelines that allows banks to provide relief to borrowers who have been affected by the riots and other disturbances. These guidelines are known as relief measures in bank in areas affected by natural calamities Direction 2018. The RBI's right relief measures include waiving off of processing fee, opening of new bank accounts, provision of consumption loans, restoration of ATMs, etc. The government in this particular case has asked the banks to make arrangements to provide relief to borrowers, including rescheduling of loan payments, waiving processing fee and opening new accounts. The government has also asked the bank to restore ATMs in the affected areas as soon as possible. So, in conclusion, if we see, the violence in Manipur has raised a lot of questions on the governance in the particular area, as these issues have been going on, they have been deep rooted, and still we have not been able to find any particular solution for it. The violence is also raised questions on the role of media, that some people have accused the media of fanning the flames of the violence by giving disproportionate coverage to the clashes. Others have argued that the media has a responsibility to report the violence in order to raise awareness in the issue. So the violence, in conclusion, what I would like to say is the violence in Manipur is a serious challenge to the Indian government right now, and the government needs to find a way to resolve the underlying tensions between the Meitei and other tribal communities in order to prevent any further violence and to control the present violence as well. The government also needs to ensure that the media plays a responsible role in reporting such violences. So that's all from our side today. If you've liked this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much and have a nice day.